So we heard about Kristi Noem. Her purse got stolen. Everybody is like, dude, what the f is going on with the shit in Kristi Noem's purse? That's the huge thing. I saw this tweet on Blue Sky from 𝗡𝗄𝗪. Dude, look at this right here. This is great, dude. 𝗡𝗄𝗪. Passport, blank checks, $3K in cash, driver's license, makeup, and meds. Sounds like a flight risk. Dude, there's no way, dude. And everyone's wondering, why is she carrying $3,000 in cash in her purse? Now, one of the first things that a lot of people thought of had to do with Corey Lewandowski, because Corey Lewandowski is working for her. This is crazy. She had an affair with Corey Lewandowski, a very well-known one. And he's got some issues, but she's had a years-long affair, and he is now on her fucking staff. Okay? Her, cabana boy, the guy she was cheating on with, is now working with her. The person she's fucking cheating on her husband with is her chief of staff. It makes a lot of sense to have $3,000 in cash in your purse, because you may be going to get a hotel room that is $1,000 a night or what have you, and you're certainly not going to be charging any of that shit on your credit cards. So your husband will find out, or your fucking accountant. You know what I'm saying? I mean, people that carry large amounts of cash like that are usually, it's discretion. Nobody uses cash anymore. It's discretion. But dude, look at this article. April 17th, man. It's 5 days ago that they fucking wrote this about how her affair is working for her, and now her purse is getting stolen and a whole bunch of money. I mean, it ain't rocket science to see what's going on. And what was her shit? Oh, I had this money because I'm going to buy Easter presents for my family. Really? On a fucking Sunday night? Right? On a Sunday night, where are you shopping? On Easter Sunday, where the fuck are you shopping? Right? What kind of story is that? Oh yeah, I brought a bunch of cash so I could go buy a bunch of gifts at all these stores that are not open because it's fucking holiday? Huh, all right. I'm not sure I'm buying that one.
A major security breach for DHS Secretary Kristi Noem, the department confirming that her bag, which had $3,000 cash inside, was stolen while she was eating Easter dinner at a D.C. restaurant last night. NBC Homeland Security correspondent Julie Ainsley is following this story for us. What do we know about what happened here?
Yeah, well, Chris, it's exactly as you laid out, that she was eating Easter dinner. We understand with numerous members of her family, about 6 or 7 people present in a popular downtown D.C. restaurant. Of course, everywhere she goes is with Secret Service, but somehow, in the middle of even having a Secret Service detail there, someone was able to steal her purse. And inside...
Dude, how? How are you at a dinner with 8 of your family members and a Secret Service detail, and somebody steals your purse, bro? Like, how does that happen? That is like next level incompetence,
man. You mentioned
man.
the $3,000. I think that's kind of the most jaw-dropping. When we asked DHS why she had that much cash, they said that she got this out to be able to spend it on things like Easter gifts and dinner for her family. Not exactly clear why there was cash needed for that, but also her badge. And that's really where you get into the...
Yeah, you need cash to buy shit for your family? Well, she can say, I need it so I can get a hotel room so Corey Lewandowski can rail me after the family dinner. And he's like, Kristi, come here, I'm going to put it in your butt. Dude, over the line. Bro, over the line, dude. Oh, shit.
Security part of this. And so we're reaching out to see if they've turned off that badge, because, of course, they can use those to access buildings or even electronics in some cases. So she said there it's not resolved yet. And we should say we've reached out to Secret Service just like we would whenever there's a security breach like this. They're referring all questions back to DHS, which of course does oversee Secret Service. But yeah, a lot of unanswered questions and some head scratching about this situation. But another question again about how people are protecting their access to secure information and how detailees are being protected. Of course, we always want to know the answers, especially after the major breach last summer against President Trump.
This comes down to like the leadership from the top. And we've talked about this at great length about how Donald Trump, in his administration, the way he operates is it's never about the most qualified or the most skilled or a person doing the best job. It's just about loyalty. He surrounds himself with people that are loyal, that are yes men, that like blow up his ego, that defer to him. But the problem with that is usually the work that gets done is really shoddy because he ends up being surrounded by people that aren't necessarily the best at their fucking jobs. And they're not even concerned about their job all the time. They're concerned about making sure the king stays taken care of. And so what happens is when Donald Trump leads with that type of tone, where shoddy work is acceptable as long as the loyalty is there, that bleeds down into all of the other areas. And it affects it. When you have a leader at the tippy top that leads with that type of leadership style, it convolutes the whole chain because leadership does flow downward. It's unavoidable. If you have really like glaring systemic issues with your leadership and you are on the top, everybody below you is going to struggle as a result of your systemic failings. That's why you constantly need to be assessing. And again, you have to decide what's your core principle. Now, normally the core principle is somebody who does a really great fucking job and takes personal responsibility for their work. That's the principle you want to have. But Donald Trump would have to behave that way in order to establish that. But he's incapable, right? So it's funny because you just see they keep having scandals with information. People are doing reckless shit. People make these really what seem like, how did they make those stupid mistakes? How does that happen? And it's because their entire administration is just polluted by Donald Trump and his fucking piss poor leadership style. Like, they're never going to get good, okay? They're never going to get this right. And they're never going to get this effective and operating smoothly as long as Donald Trump is the guy up at top. You know, it's just not fucking possible. So her bag, including $3,000 stolen from a DC restaurant. Dude, she is so craven. She was eating at a downtown DC restaurant. Secret Service reviewed security camera footage at the Capitol Burger restaurant, saw an unknown white male wearing a medical mask steal her bag and leave the restaurant. So it was a white male with a medical mask. The thief got away with Noem's driver's license, her medication, her apartment keys, her passport, her DHS access badge, makeup bag, blank checks, and $3,000 in cash. Okay. Her entire family was in town, including her children and grandchildren. She was using the withdrawal to treat her family to dinner, activities, and Easter gifts. Again, there's no reason to have cash for that. It could very easily just use credit cards for all of that purchasing shit. Law enforcement experts have raised concerns about whether the incident, which involved a thief getting so close to a cabinet official and absconding with their belongings, may have been a lapse in security. This is a security breach that actually has high consequences. Of course it does. But dude, historically, Secret Service around Trump has not been very effective. I mean, they let a gunman on a roof with a line of sight on old Donnie. So I don't know if he has the best Secret Service. If necessary, they'll need to make some operational changes in how they deal with their private events. And Noem remains at higher risk for targeted threats by both foreign and domestic actors, and just her public profile alone. I mean, she does a lot of cosplaying But dude, I'm telling you though, I think it's probably pretty accurate. I think that money was about her affair, man. Dude, it's still so crazy. Here they are, dude. They started having an affair years ago. She's a Christian. She had an affair with Corey Lewandowski, a well-known one, years ago. For years, during the first Trump administration. Okay, now he is her chief of staff. Dude, he's basically her fucking chief of staff. Tell me they're not back on the hobby horse. You know that they are back on the fucking hobby horse. Reports that Kristi Noem is having an affair with the top aide seem relevant in light of the revelation she carries around an exorbitant amount of cash. Of course. Though Lewandowski had initially wanted to serve as Noem's chief of staff, President Trump and his top advisors were uncomfortable with Lewandowski in that role, owing to tabloid reports of a romantic relationship between Lewandowski and Noem over the years. Trump's like, no, you can't be in that, but he is essentially her fucking chief of staff. She's working side by side with the guy that she's been cheating with. Of course, she's carrying $3,000 in fucking cash. Of course she is. Hotel room? Anyone? Dude, this article was 5 days ago. Last month, she toured a new high-tech hub for monitoring immigrants with executives from Palantir. Sounds familiar, right? Peter Thiel's operation. The walkthrough was orchestrated by a well-placed booster, Corey Lewandowski, her former affair, who's now her close advisor. An assistant working on behalf of Lewandowski had sought a significant block of time for the tour that included Palantir's chief tech officer, right? In other meetings, Lewandowski told officials at DHS to give the firm additional work. Okay, weeks after the tour, the company co-founded by Thiel would get an additional $29.9 million from the agency under an existing contract, right? Specifically to deploy its powerful software for immigration targeting. Now, this is one of the side effects of this Trump presidency. J.D. Vance is in there, so now all of Peter Thiel's and Elon Musk's businesses are all going to get our tax money for their little projects. They're going to be providing the software for like everything. The episode highlighted Lewandowski's unusual and outsized role at DHS, where administration officials, agency staff, and Trump allies say he's used his close relationship with Noem to wield power, though he has no formal role at the agency. He has emerged as a gatekeeper for Noem, counseling her during her travels to meet with world leaders, weighing in on personnel decisions, and advising on DHS contracts. Lewandowski is serving as a special government employee. That's the same role that Elon Musk has. A status under federal ethics laws that permits private sector employees to work inside the government without having to relinquish their outside salaries or investments. He's often the only person who accompanies her to meetings, right? For the Palantir tour, the assistant who said he was working with Lewandowski sent emails scheduling the visit, including who would come from which company. Now, Lewandowski said in an interview he didn't play any role in Palantir's getting the contract, adding that he happened to be at the building when the tour occurred. Sure. All right. When asked about the emails, he said anyone at the department could send emails requesting meetings on his behalf. Dude, this is like, it just smells of bullshit. Okay. A spokesperson for DHS said Doge handles contracts and that Lewandowski executed the tour on Doge's behalf, which is different than what Lewandowski said. A spokesperson also said he had nothing to do with the contracts. Palantir didn't comment. Okay, though Lewandowski had initially wanted to be chief of staff, Trump said they were uncomfortable of it because of the tabloid relationship, aka cheating, that happened for years. Lewandowski and Noem, who are both married, have publicly denied the reports of the affair. Trump and Lewandowski settled on the special government employee job. According to people familiar with the discussions, Lewandowski denied he was having an affair with Noem. The spokesperson for DHS said the department doesn't waste time with salacious gossip. Nearly 3 months into the administration, Noem's chief of staff role remains vacant. So there you go. So Lewandowski is the special government employee, but she didn't hire a chief of staff. So, I wonder who her chief of staff is. Yeah, it's the guy who's banging her. The guy who's been banging her for like 10 years or whatever. Dude, they're so dirty, right? They're so dirty. Like all of the fucking people in Trump's orbit are so dirty. Like his son is cheating on his wife, so Kim becomes the ambassador to Greece. Dude, everybody's fucking cheating on everyone. Everyone's having affairs. They have undersecretaries working jobs. The whole thing is so scummy. Lewandowski went with Noem to El Salvador, Mexico, and Colombia. He advises her in all the high-level personnel meetings, becoming so vital that some employees refer to him as the chief of staff or even the shadow secretary, because all meetings with Noem are routed through him. During the same tour with Palantir, an incensed Lewandowski also pushed to fire the immigration official leading the tour because that official had briefly turned his back on Noem while answering a question from another person in the group. Oh, there you go. You turn your back on my girlfriend? I want you fired. Dude, what the fuck are these guys doing? Lewandowski argued it was grounds for dismissal. Days later, the official was demoted to a less prominent position. Lewandowski and the spokesperson for DHS deny that the incident occurred. See the kind of shit that is happening, guys? This is fucking nonsensical. Noem is donning immigration and customs uniforms, posing in the cockpit of a Coast Guard plane, allotting $200 million for an advertising campaign featuring Noem as she warns immigrants. But her approach is rankling the White House, and Trump advisors are concerned about Lewandowski's outside role, especially since they know they're banging. Okay? And because he's a special government employee, that means he doesn't have to fucking tell anybody anything. There's this veil of secrecy. White House didn't comment. Federal records show the DHS fast-tracked the $200 million ad contract to People Who Think LLC, owned by Jay Connaughton, a Louisiana-based political consultant who, guess what, worked with Lewandowski on Jeff Landry's 2023 campaign. The contract didn't follow an open and competitive process, which the department justified by citing Trump's national emergency at the border. So you see that? Look at that. They wanted to do this ad campaign. So what did they do? They used the emergency of Trump at the border. Oh, emergency, border emergency. So now we're not going to look for a good deal. We're going to automatically ink a $200 million ad contract with one of her boyfriend's friends from Louisiana. So now her and Lewandowski presumably are being enriched by that $200 million. Dude, you see how fucking dirty this shit is? So you see this shit? Dude, money laundering. Yeah, something's going on. In 2019, Noem brought Lewandowski on as a political advisor, but briefly cut ties with him in 2021 when he was accused of sexual misconduct. Okay, he was charged with misdemeanor battery and made a deal with Vegas prosecutors because he's got a little problem with not treating women very well. Lewandowski helped Noem build a national profile, brought her into Trump's orbit. All right, so Lewandowski kind of shuttled her into this. He introduced her as a rising star of the Republican Party. Both Noem and Lewandowski tried to stay close to Trump throughout the campaign, and Noem often delivered messages that were similar to what Lewandowski was saying behind the scenes. Lewandowski also played a role in her getting the job. Okay, he pushed for Noem to get the DHS post. So, right, you see what's going on here? When Trump announced Noem, he surprised some of his top advisors. So Lewandowski is greasing Trump. Trump is like letting Noem in. Noem gets to cosplay. Lewandowski's a right-hand man. They're funneling hundreds of millions of dollars to their friends. Maybe Trump is getting, who knows what he's getting. Dude. Oh, bro. This shit is so dirty. And she, she gets burgled, all right, and her purse is stolen. $3,000 in cash because got to keep those hotel rooms going. All right. What is up, guys? Thank you so much for watching. You like the video, you want to support independent resistance media, you know what to do. Drop that sub, hit the like button, and please share it. And we do love our members, so if you want to become a member, it's another really great way to support. Thanks again for everything, guys. I'll see you next time. Let's go.